October 1097. The victory at Dorylaeum echoed across Anatolia. The Seljuk ambush had failed, but the crusading princes were exhausted, thirsty, and wounded. The march toward Antioch had only just begun, and it would test them harder than any battle. After Dorylaeum, the Crusaders split into two great columns: the Norman vanguard under Bohemond and Robert of Normandy, the Provençal and Lotharingian forces under Raymond of Toulouse and Godfrey of Bouillon. The two armies marched days apart, moving through desolate burned lands, scorched by the Seljuks months earlier. The road to Antioch was a path through emptiness, scorched earth, ruined farms, and silence. Many starved, some collapsed from heat. Horses died by the thousands, forcing knights to walk like common infantry. Yet the princes pushed forward. Kilij Arslan had been defeated at Dorylaeum, but the war was far from over. Small bands of Seljuk horse archers stalked the Crusader columns, firing arrows from the hills, then vanishing. The Turks learned. They no longer charged the Crusader lines. They hunted them from afar. The Crusaders marched in tight defensive formations, shields raised overhead against arrows raining from the ridges. The Armenians who joined the Crusaders described the land as black, burned, and poisoned. The Seljuks had destroyed wells. Food was almost non-existent. Many Crusaders resorted to boiling leather, eating grass, and butchering exhausted horses. By late October, thousands had died of hunger, disease, and heat before even reaching Antioch's walls. The Crusaders' losers: 5,000 to 7,000 dead, starvation, exhaustion, harassment. Seljuks: minimal losses, hit-and-run raids only. The Crusaders entered Cilicia, Armenian Christian land. Here, the suffering army finally found food, water-safe villages, local guides, fresh horses. It was salvation. The Armenians cheered them as liberators. For the first time since leaving Nicaea, the Crusaders felt hope. Bohemond took the city of Tarsus. Baldwin broke away and founded his own principality in Edessa, the first Crusader state. After 7 months of marching across Anatolia, the walls of Antioch finally rose before them. It was massive, ancient, seemingly invincible, fortified with 400 towers, home to 30,000 to 40,000 people, protected by the Orontes River, guarded by the Seljuk governor Yagisiyan. The Crusaders were in awe and terrified. They had reached Antioch, but their ordeal was far from over. The greatest siege of the age was about to begin. And so, with the Bosporus behind them and the unknown lands of Asia Minor ahead, the Crusaders marched forward into a world they did not understand. As the Crusaders pushed deeper into Anatolia, they quickly realized that this was no ordinary march. Villages were abandoned, fields were burned, wells were poisoned. Kilij Arslan had ordered a scorched earth strategy, turning the land into a wasteland to starve the Crusaders before battle even began. Food ran low, water ran out. Many men collapsed on the road, their lips cracked from thirst. Horses died daily in the brutal heat. At night, distant horns echoed across the hills, Seljuk scouts shadowing every movement, watching, waiting. By late June 1097, the Crusader army stretched for miles. Still hungry, still dehydrated, still arguing, they made a fateful choice. The vanguard, led by Bohemond of Taranto, moved ahead, while Godfrey, Raymond, and the rest followed hours behind. The plains of Anatolia were wide, too wide, and that division was exactly what the Seljuk Sultan wanted. Kilij Arslan was preparing something massive, an ambush that would either crush the crusade completely or break the power of the Seljuks forever. On July 1st, Bohemond's vanguard reached a valley near the small town of Dorylaeum. To the right, low hills. To the left, ravines and rocky slopes. Ahead, open, flat ground, perfect for light cavalry. But the morning was quiet, too quiet. Bohemond's scouts reported no movement. Yet, hidden behind the hills, the entire Seljuk force was waiting. Thousands of horse archers, armored cavaliers, tribal auxiliaries, and warriors loyal to Kili Arslan himself. The trap was set, and at sunrise, the sky would explode. As the Crusaders crested the final ridge, the morning sun revealed a sight that froze them in place. Across the plain, stretching farther than the eye could see, the Seljuk army stood waiting. Thousands of horse archers, auxiliary infantry, and banners of Kili Arslan fluttered in the wind. For many Crusaders, this was the first time witnessing the full terror of a nomadic cavalry army. Kili Arslan wasted no time. With the precision of a seasoned commander, he launched the first phase of his plan. Fast, coordinated hit-and-run attacks. Seljuk horse archers galloped forward in loose formation, loosing arrows with deadly accuracy before pulling away again. This was not a battle of strength. It was a battle of mobility, fear, and exhaustion. In moments, the Seljuks swept around both flanks. From above, the battlefield would have looked like a tightening ring, a massive crescent of horse archers closing in. Arrows rained from every direction as the Crusaders realized the horrifying truth. They were surrounded. Kili Arslan's encirclement was masterfully executed, trapping the Crusaders in a deadly storm of arrows. Chaos tore through the Crusader lines. Knights shouted orders no one could hear. Infantry huddled behind shields, and horses panicked under the constant fire. Slowly, painfully, the Crusaders began pulling back into a tighter formation, a desperate attempt to shield themselves from the unending barrage. Every moment felt like a battle for survival against an enemy that struck and vanished like smoke. By mid-morning, the vanguard found itself nearly swallowed by the Seljuk tide. The sky grew dark with arrows, and every moment claimed more men and horses. Knights struggled to regroup, while infantry huddled behind shields, praying for deliverance. The Seljuks pressed harder, tightening the noose around the Crusader vanguard. If reinforcements didn't arrive soon, the first line of the Crusader army would collapse entirely. Knowing they could not hold alone, Bohemond dispatched riders to the rear. Only one message mattered: "We are under attack. Send everything you have." The fate of the crusade hung on whether the reinforcements could reach them in time. When word reached the rest of the Crusader leaders, Godfrey, Raymond, Stephen of Blois, and Hugh of Vermandois, they moved with stunning speed. Columns of infantry and cavalry thundered forward across the plains of Dorylaeum. They knew the Seljuks aimed to destroy the Crusade army piece by piece, and they refused to allow it. But Kili Arslan was no ordinary opponent. He recognized the Crusader reinforcements racing toward the field and signaled his horsemen to encircle the vanguard even tighter. His strategy was simple: crush the forward ranks before the reinforcements could reach them. Victory was within his grasp, or so it seemed. For hours, the Crusaders held on through sheer discipline and will. Shield walls locked, spears braced. Knights forced their panicked horses into tight formation. They would not break. They could not break. Not with the entire Seljuk army bearing down on them. Across the distant horizon, a line of steel flashed in the sun. Reinforcements. A tide of cavalry and infantry sweeping toward the battlefield. The Crusaders roared as one, for help had arrived. The sun rises as smoke drifts over the plains. The Crusader defensive line is battered but still holding. Shields are cracked, armor dented, faces exhausted. The sound of distant horns echoes across the hills. Crusader scout, shouting, "My lords!" Riders approaching from the west. The battered Crusaders lift their heads. Hope flickers. A massive cloud of dust rises. Then the shapes become clear. Crusader, heavy cavalry, hundreds strong, lances leveled, banners snapping in the wind. At the front rides Duke Godfrey, raising his sword high. "Brothers, for Christ and the Holy Lance, charge, and let none stand before you." The horns blast, horses scream, metal rattles. The cavalry surges forward with thunderous speed, the earth shaking under their hooves. Behind them, the Crusader infantry begins to run, shouting war cries, swords lifted. "Forward, support the Duke, push them back." The Seljuk archers pause mid-volley. Shocked cavalry from the west? Impossible. Regroup, form lines. But it's too late. The Crusader cavalry hits the Seljuk flank like a hammer. The collision is brutal. Lances shatter, horses slam into shields. Seljuk riders tumble from their saddles. Crusaders roar as they break the encirclement. Knight Hugh. "Press them. Don't stop." Norman Knight. "Push to the center. Break their heart." The infantry arrives moments later, smashing into the Seljuk line with shields and spears. The Seljuk formation collapses in confusion. Arrows stop firing. Orders are lost. Riders scatter. Seljuk commander, desperate. Fall back, to the ridge." But panic spreads too fast. Dust, hooves, screams. The whole battlefield shifts as the Seljuk army begins to break and flee. The Crusaders, now fighting with renewed strength, push the enemy off the field. Duke Godfrey raises his banner atop a small hill. Duke Godfrey, "Victory! Blow the horns! Let all know the Lord is with us this day." The Crusaders cheer, exhausted but triumphant. Trumpets echo across the battlefield. Dead horses, broken arrows, shattered shields lie across the plain. Smoke rises gently from burned patches of grass. Surviving Crusaders tend to wounded brothers. Brother Anselm, softly, "God have mercy on their souls, friend and foe alike." Bohemond approaches Godfrey. "Bohemond, you held the line well, Godfrey. Had we come a moment later?" Godfrey shakes his head. "We held because we had no choice." They look over the field together. Bohemond, "Dorylaeum is ours. Anatolia lies open before us." A single banner flaps in the wind. The Crusader cross, catching the morning sun, fade out. And so, the dust settled over the plains of Dorylaeum. The cries of battle faded, replaced only by the ragged breath of survivors and the heavy silence of victory. Against all odds, the Crusader princes stood united. Bohemond, Godfrey, Robert, and their battered men, hardened not just by steel, but by suffering. The Seljuk ambush had nearly destroyed them, but courage, timing, and an unbreakable will turned disaster into triumph. This victory would echo across Christendom, carried by messengers who rode day and night to report the miracle. But the journey was far from over. Ahead lay hunger, disease, betrayal, and the greatest challenge of all, the holy city of Jerusalem. The Crusaders had won a battle, but before them lay the war. Join us in the next episode as the long march continues toward glory and destiny.